Well, Kelly's Court is back in session. On the docket today, 8 kids and 2 angry adults and the reality TV family now falling apart in front of our very eyes. Jon from TLC's mega hit show Jon and Kate Plus 8, tired of having his dirty laundry hung out to dry on national television, reportedly saying he wants out of the series. But if this couple is under contract, can he put an end to this thing? And what about these children? Could new charges that they are being exploited put an end to the bright lights? Let's ask our panel. Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Colwin and defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Morning, panel.
Morning, Megan.
Morning. I mean, I don't watch this show, but it has sunk into the national consciousness through utter saturation in every form of media, from television to internet and so on. And apparently this couple is airing their very troubled marriage problems in front of the world to see. Now he, according to a very good friend of his, wants out. And the series, and they've just signed some deal that wouldn't allow it. So, Mercedes, should he be allowed to get out of the contract?
I think it all depends on what that contract says, but here's some of the things that he can say. Say, first of all, is there any ambiguity in the contract? That's always against TLC, who are the drafters of the contract. He can say the entire purpose of this contract is for us to portray a happy together family. Well, we're no longer happy. We're not together. I'm usually not even seen. Apparently, some of the shows, I don't see the show either, Megan, but a lot of folks who do watch it faithfully say that he's pretty AWOL during the show now. That he's not that united front. That's not the united family that TLC negotiated for to be portrayed on air. So he can turn around and say the entire purpose of this contract has now been frustrated. I need to get out. So it depends on how it's phrased, but certainly that's a good way to start.
Is that true, Mark? Because this thing is making TLC gazillions. There were 10 million people who watched the premiere of this thing on Monday night. You know how much that is, especially on cable? That's huge, the attention. Right. There's no way they're going to let him go without a fight.
I agree, and I don't think that he has much merit to his argument. Listen, not liking a contract that you signed isn't a reason to get out. He handed his children on a silver platter to them and negotiated a contract that he believed was in his best interest. He has now learned what all of us knew from the start. Being in a fishbowl on reality TV is not the strongest choice for you individually or for your family. But I don't think that they're going to let him out of his contract.
But, Mercedes, there's no such thing as indentured servitude in this country. Right. You cannot be forced to work against your will. So if he goes to them and says, I don't care what the contract says, I'm not doing it, they can't force him. What can they do?
Well, they certainly, TLC can turn around and definitely sue him. I think that's an excellent point, Megan. They can definitely sue him and say, wait, now you've breached the contract. But turning this on something that Mark said, if Jon goes to family court, forget the trial courts, goes to family court and says, this is now harming my children, and let the family court get involved, say that these kids' exploitation is now affecting their mental well-being, that's an angle that may actually breach that contract, and he can get away, because
I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's Jon and his wife Kate who have been exploiting these kids
since birth.
Now suddenly he's had a flash of conscience because he wants out?
Sure. I mean, he can turn around and say, well, listen, after a while, when I realized I didn't know what I was doing, Your Honor, this is when I first started, there was lots of financial issues, lots of financial crisis.
Yeah,
that's why he entered that contract.
Very briefly. I mean, Mercedes is a very creative attorney, and I don't know that she really believes that argument. She's just advancing like that could be one of his options if he really wants out. But I think that the court's reaction would be the same as yours, Megan, and mine, and that is so transparent. You don't like not having your freedom because everybody's following you around. You don't like this show, so now you're saying that your kids are being harmed? Listen, unless they're being abused and or neglected, I don't think a family court should get involved. Is this in their best interest? Heck no. But we're well past that point.
And let's not forget this. Kate's brother and the brother's wife went on, I think it was the CBS morning show yesterday, and talked about their view about what's in the best interest of these children. Take a listen to what they said.
They're being exploited. And it's time for America to see the situation for what it really is, which is, unfortunately, there are no laws protecting children in reality TV shows. And it's time for the public to be aware of this, and that these children are very aware of the cameras in their homes. Their home is their workplace, and this is not a healthy environment for kids to be raised in.
And Mercedes, they went on to say that whenever they raised that exact point with Jon and Kate, they're told, you don't get it, you don't have 8 kids. So there is no way Jon can now turn around and use the exploitative nature of this to get himself out of the contract.
Well, you know, Megan, but that's one way he could, though, frankly, because if family court does get involved, they can say, we need a guardian to start evaluating these kids. And if these kids turn around and say they're afraid, they're uncomfortable, they are not able to socialize outside of that family unit, they don't understand why cameras are in their faces constantly, a guardian can't step forward and say that. Well, is it a stretch? Absolutely. Is it something that Jon may want to try to do to get out?
It's an interesting point, though, Mark. What if he reaches out to that aunt and uncle and says, why don't you, hint, hint, do something about it. Get a guardian appointed, get my kids out of it. In other words, I really can't do it, but maybe you could do it. And once the kids are out of the show dies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen, but it'll come down to what a judge is, how a judge feels about it. And I think that he's going to look at this and say, well, wait a second. Parents make decisions all the time that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the children, but we're not going to get involved. We're not going to tell the Jackson parents that they can't raise Tito and Michael the crazy way that they might have done it.
If
or
only
the
they
Osmonds.
had.
Exactly.
Yeah, God bless. They should have, if we know then. But the point is that parents make poor decisions every day. That doesn't mean that they're being abused or neglected, and the courts shouldn't step in under those circumstances.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like they will here, but we'll wait to see how it plays out. Mercedes Colwin and Mark Eiglar, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Megan.
One final word for our viewers. Jon cannot be forced to do this show if he doesn't want to. He can, however, be forced to pay a penalty for breaching his contract if he bails on it early. As for the children being exploited, which they clearly are, it may be abhorrent, but it is not grounds for taking them away from the couple or necessarily grounds to get him out of his contract. It is grounds, however, to turn the channel.
$10 million on Memorial Monday.
That's big.
Match that in the cable world.